And Oscar goes to Ron Howard.
I love all kinds of movies, all kinds of stories, really, and I always have, and that's taken me on some fantastic.
She was his high school sweetheart, but their love story was anything but simple. Ron Howard had to propose 3 times before she finally said yes. Now, at 71, the legendary director is revealing what really happened, the secret lucky charm she became for his movies, the shocking way they named their kids, and why he chose her over Hollywood's biggest stars. Today, we're exposing the untold romance that saved Ron Howard's life. Ron Howard was born on March 1st, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma. His full name was Ronald William Howard. He was the first child of Rance and Jean Howard, 2 people who had dedicated their lives to acting. His father, originally named Harold Beckenholt, changed his last name to Howard in 1948. He was an actor, writer, and director. His mother was an actress who had trained in New York City. Together, they built a family where storytelling and performance were a part of daily life. At the time of Ron's birth, his father was serving in the United States Air Force. Even with his military duties, Rance never let go of his passion for acting. He had studied drama at the University of Oklahoma and was determined to make it his life's work. His mother, Jean, had studied acting in New York and brought that same artistic energy into their home. Growing up in this environment, Ron was surrounded by creativity from the very beginning. Duncan was a small town with fewer than 20,000 residents. Life there was simple, far from the entertainment industry. But even as a toddler, Ron showed something special. His parents recognized it early. They wanted to give him the best possible chance to develop his talent. That decision led them to leave Oklahoma behind and start fresh in Hollywood. Even after moving to Los Angeles, the Howards lived simply. They didn't buy a mansion or surround themselves with luxury. They settled in Burbank, where they could focus on their work without distractions. No matter how successful they became, they never lost sight of their values. That mindset kept Ron grounded, even as his career took off. Ron's first time on stage happened when he was just 18 months old. By the time he was 2, he had already appeared in his first film, Frontier Woman, 1956. At 4 years old, he was acting regularly under his father's guidance. There was no rush to turn him into a star. His parents wanted him to be prepared, to understand what he was doing. That preparation made all the difference. His big break came at age 6 when he was cast as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show in 1960. The show ran for 8 seasons and turned him into a household name. At the time, he was credited as Ronnie Howard, and his portrayal of Opie made him one of the most beloved child actors on television. His very first scene on set was a tough one. He had to pretend his toy turtle had died and react with real sadness. For a child actor, that was a big challenge, but Howard handled it with remarkable focus. Director Bob Sweeney saw something special in him and taught him how to concentrate and make every scene feel real. That advice shaped Howard's approach to acting for years to come. Meanwhile, Griffith became a mentor and father figure to Howard, guiding him both in acting and in life. He taught him about professionalism and storytelling and made sure he felt supported on set. Even after the show ended in 1968, their friendship remained strong. They stayed in touch for decades, and in 1971, Howard even guest-starred on the new Andy Griffith Show. Griffith often praised Howard's talent, and Howard always credited Griffith for shaping his early career. While still on the Andy Griffith Show, Howard was already proving he could do more than just television. In 1962, he starred in The Music Man as Winthrop Peru, a shy boy with a lisp who delivers one of the film's most memorable musical performances. The movie became the 3rd highest-grossing film of the year and earned 6 Academy Award nominations. In 1963, he played Eddie Corbett in The Courtship of Eddie's Father, a boy trying to find his widowed father a new wife. His performance was praised for its emotional depth and comedic timing. Director Vincente Minnelli was especially impressed, noting that Howard had a natural ability to convey real emotions. Howard's interests weren't limited to acting. Even as a child, he was fascinated by filmmaking. His time on CBS's Playhouse 90 exposed him to the technical side of television. The show featured some of Hollywood's best directors and writers, and Howard paid close attention to how they worked. He watched directors like Alex Siegel manage complicated productions and learned how they brought stories to life. Ron Howard's career took a huge step forward in 1973 when he played Steve Bolender in American Graffiti. At the time, he was still best known as Opie Taylor from The Andy Griffith Show. That role made him famous, but it also kept him stuck in the image of a child star. American Graffiti changed everything. The film, directed by George Lucas, was set on the last night of summer in 1962. It followed a group of teenagers as they cruised the streets, faced big life decisions, and listened to the biggest rock and roll hits of their time. Lucas based much of it on his own teenage years in Modesto, California. Howard's character, Steve, was a high school graduate torn between staying with his girlfriend or leaving for college. Audiences connected with the film, which was packed with over 40 classic songs from artists like Buddy Holly and Chuck Berry. It was made on a tight budget of under $1 million, but became a massive hit, earning over $140 million and receiving 5 Academy Award nominations. The film's success went beyond the box office. Its tagline, "Where were you in '62?" struck a chord with baby boomers who remembered their teenage years. It also kicked off a wave of nostalgia for the 1950s and early 60s. But for Howard, the impact was personal. He had spent years as Opie, and Hollywood still saw him as a kid. American Graffiti gave him the chance to prove he could take on more mature roles. It was the breakthrough he needed, and it set the stage for the biggest role of his career. ABC executives took notice of Howard's performance. They saw his potential as a leading man, which led to him being cast as Richie Cunningham in Happy Days in 1974. Created by Gary Marshall, the sitcom was a light-hearted look at life in 1950s America. It had a slow start, struggling in its first 2 seasons, but everything changed when it switched to a multi-camera format with a live studio audience. That shift gave the show the energy it needed, and by its 3rd season, Happy Days was the #1 show on television. Howard played Richie as the ultimate boy next door, wholesome, responsible, and easy to relate to. His character was the heart of the show, dealing with teenage life, friendships, and family struggles. Happy Days ran for 11 seasons, and Howard remained a regular until 1980. But behind the scenes, things weren't always smooth. At first, Howard was the clear star of Happy Days. That changed when Henry Winkler's character, Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli, became a sensation. Fonzie, with his leather jacket, tough guy attitude, and signature "Aye!" quickly became the show's most popular character. By season 3, Winkler's name was listed alongside Howard's in the opening credits. The network even considered renaming the show Fonzie's Happy Days. Howard was frustrated. He had signed on expecting to be the lead, and now he felt like he was being pushed aside. He made it clear that if the title changed, he would leave the show. ABC backed down, keeping the original name, but Fonzie remained the most talked-about character. Even though Howard and Winkler were close friends, the situation was tough. Howard admitted that while he was never jealous of Winkler, he felt like Happy Days was no longer his show. Things became even more difficult behind the scenes. As Winkler's fame grew, Howard noticed that studio executives treated him differently. He was no longer their top priority. The media started speculating that he was becoming a second-class citizen on his own show. But instead of letting it get to him, he used it as motivation. He focused even more on his directing ambitions, determined to prove he could do more than act. When Howard left Happy Days in 1980, he didn't walk away as a struggling actor. He left with a clear goal and the skills to make it happen. Ron Howard's passion for directing started early. While still in high school in Burbank, California, he got his hands on a Super 8 camera and started making short films. This wasn't just a hobby. He was serious about learning the craft. He even entered a Kodak-sponsored film contest for high school students and won second prize. That early recognition showed he had a real talent for storytelling. His father, Rance Howard, played a key role in shaping his future. Rance was an actor who understood the film industry and encouraged Ron to see directing as more than just an interest. At the time, Ron was acting on The Andy Griffith Show, but he was just as focused on what happened behind the camera. He watched the directors closely, paying attention to camera work and rehearsals. One of them noticed his curiosity and told him, "You're going to be a filmmaker one day." That prediction stuck with him. By the time he graduated high school in 1972, Ron already knew what he wanted. His Super 8 films had given him a strong foundation. He had learned about framing, editing, and visual storytelling. Most people still saw him as an actor, but he was determined to prove he could be a director. After high school, he took the next step and enrolled at the University of Southern California's School of Cinematic Arts. USC was one of the best film schools in the world. It had cutting-edge equipment and strong industry connections. Ron was part of the school's first-ever freshman film class, a big moment in his journey. But not long after starting at USC, he landed the role of Richie Cunningham on Happy Days. The show became a massive success. Balancing acting and school became impossible, and he had to make a choice. He left USC before finishing his degree, but that didn't stop him from learning. Every acting job became an opportunity to study filmmaking. He watched directors at work, asked questions, and observed how a set was run. He was getting a hands-on education that no classroom could provide. Years later, he returned to USC as a guest speaker, sharing his experiences with future filmmakers. He might not have finished film school, but what he learned along the way shaped his career. His first big break as a director came in 1977, but it happened in an unusual way. Producer Roger Corman made him a deal. If Ron agreed to star in Eat My Dust, he could direct his own film. Ron wasn't excited about the script, but he saw the bigger opportunity. He took the role, and in return, Corman let him direct Grand Theft Auto. Ron co-wrote the script with his father in just 2 weeks. The film had a small budget of $602,000 and was shot in only 23 days. It was a fast-paced action comedy about a young couple on the run, filled with wild car chases and eccentric characters. Critics were divided, but audiences loved it. The movie made $15 million at the box office, a huge success considering its low budget. Directing Grand Theft Auto was a turning point. Ron had to manage tight schedules, limited resources, and the pressure of delivering an entertaining film. It was also the only time he ever directed himself in a feature film. More importantly, the success of Grand Theft Auto proved he could do more than act. Hollywood started to see him as a filmmaker. Ron Howard's career as a director took off in 1982 with Night Shift, a comedy that proved he was more than just an actor. Before this, he was best known for playing Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, but behind the scenes, he wanted something more. He had already directed a few small projects, but Night Shift was his first real test. The film starred Henry Winkler, Shelley Long, and a then-unknown Michael Keaton in his first major role. It told the story of a shy night shift morgue worker whose life gets turned upside down when his loud, unpredictable co-worker convinces him to start an unusual business, running a prostitution ring out of the morgue. It was a bizarre premise, but Howard made it work by balancing outrageous comedy with moments of real heart. The film was a surprise hit, earning over $21 million at the box office on a modest budget. Critics praised Howard's direction, and especially Michael Keaton's high-energy performance. He was electric in every scene, stealing the spotlight and winning the Kansas City Film Critics Circle Award for Best Supporting Actor. Even today, the film holds a 93% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, with many calling it one of the sharpest comedies of the early 80s. Not every critic was completely sold. Janet Maslin of the New York Times thought the film lost some of its energy in the second half, but the impact was undeniable. The film also strengthened Howard's working relationship with Henry Winkler. They had spent years together on Happy Days, but this was something different. Winkler gave one of his most memorable performances, proving he could do more than just comedy. At the same time, Howard showed he could handle a feature film with confidence. Some even compared Night Shift to other breakout comedies of the era like Risky Business. More than anything, the film showed what kind of director Howard was becoming. After Night Shift, Howard moved fast. In 1984, he directed Splash, a romantic fantasy comedy that became an even bigger hit. The film starred Tom Hanks as a man who falls in love with a mermaid, played by Daryl Hannah. It was a unique idea, but what made it work was the mix of humor and heart. John Candy and Eugene Levy added extra comedy, and the chemistry between Hanks and Hannah made the love story believable. The film was a turning point for both Howard and Hanks. It made Hanks a star and became the first film released under Disney's new Touchstone Pictures label, which focused on more mature stories. With a budget of $11 million, Splash earned nearly $70 million in the US, making it the 10th highest-grossing film of the year. Critics praised Howard's ability to mix comedy with emotion. Most loved the film, but Roger Ebert had one unusual complaint. He thought John Candy should have played the lead instead of Hanks. Still, the film was a success and even earned an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Screenplay. It proved Howard wasn't just a one-hit wonder. He was a director who could bring something fresh to Hollywood. Just a year later, Howard took on something completely different with Cocoon. This 1985 sci-fi drama told the story of elderly residents in a retirement home who discover an alien presence that restores their youth. It had humor, heart, and groundbreaking visual effects that won an Academy Award. The film was shot in St. Petersburg, Florida, and featured a cast of veteran actors, including Don Ameche, who won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Cocoon earned over $85 million, making it one of the biggest hits of the year. In 1995, Apollo 13 proved just how good Howard was at turning real events into gripping drama. The film told the story of NASA's 1970 lunar mission, where astronauts Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes faced a life-or-death crisis after an oxygen tank exploded. Instead of landing on the moon, their mission became a desperate struggle to return home. Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Bill Paxton played the stranded astronauts, while Ed Harris and Gary Sinise took on the roles of mission control leaders trying to guide them back safely. To make the film as real as possible, Howard worked closely with NASA. He even filmed scenes aboard the Vomit Comet, a plane that creates brief moments of weightlessness. That attention to detail paid off. The movie made over $355 million worldwide on a $52 million budget and received 9 Academy Award nominations. It won for Best Film Editing and Best Sound, but surprisingly left Howard out of the Best Director category. Over time, Apollo 13 became a classic. The famous line, "Houston, we have a problem," is now part of pop culture. In 2023, the film was added to the National Film Registry, recognized for its cultural and historical importance. Just a few years later, Howard took on another true story with A Beautiful Mind. Released on December 21, 2001, the film told the life of John Nash, a mathematical genius who battled schizophrenia. Russell Crowe played Nash, bringing to life his brilliance, paranoia, and eventual triumph. Howard used creative storytelling techniques to immerse viewers in Nash's mind, revealing key details only when the character himself recognized them. The emotional weight of the film came from Nash's relationship with his wife Alicia, played by Jennifer Connelly. Her performance earned her an Oscar, and the film itself won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director for Howard. It grossed over $313 million worldwide on a $58 million budget. More than just a success at the box office, the movie changed how people saw mental illness. It helped audiences understand the struggles of schizophrenia while celebrating Nash's achievements and resilience. Howard wasn't just known for serious dramas. In 2000, he stepped into the world of fantasy with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Adapting Dr. Seuss's beloved book into a live-action film was no easy task, but with Jim Carrey as the Grinch, the film became a holiday hit. Carrey's transformation into the green, Christmas-hating character took hours of makeup every day, a process he once described as feeling like being buried alive. The production was so demanding that Howard tried to keep the mood light, even dressing up as the Grinch himself on set. The film was released on November 17, 2000, and quickly became the highest-grossing holiday movie of its time, making $345 million worldwide on a $123 million budget. It won an Academy Award for Best Makeup and received nominations for costume design and production design. Though some critics found its darker humor unusual for a children's film, audiences embraced it. Over time, it became a Christmas classic, with Carrey's performance remaining one of his most unforgettable roles. In 2006, Howard directed The Da Vinci Code, based on Dan Brown's best-selling novel. The film starred Tom Hanks as symbologist Robert Langdon, who uncovers a mystery tied to the Holy Grail and a secret religious organization. The movie was met with immediate controversy. The Vatican condemned it, religious groups called for boycotts, and debates raged over its portrayal of Christianity. But controversy didn't hurt ticket sales. The Da Vinci Code premiered at Cannes on May 17, 2006, and became Howard's highest-grossing film, making $760 million worldwide on a $125 million budget. He followed it with two sequels, Angels and Demons in 2009 and Inferno in 2016. While critics debated the film's historical accuracy, audiences loved the mix of mystery, history, and action. Behind the scenes, the production had its lighter moments. While filming at the Louvre, Tom Hanks once changed pants in front of the Mona Lisa, creating a story Howard still laughs about today. Ron Howard has made some incredible films, but not everything he touches turns to gold. Two of his biggest box office disappointments were Inferno in 2016 and Solo, a Star Wars story, in 2018. Both had big budgets, high expectations, and strong connections to successful franchises. Still, they struggled to bring in audiences. Inferno was the third film in the Robert Langdon series starring Tom Hanks. The first movie, The Da Vinci Code, was a massive hit in 2006, earning $760 million worldwide. Angels and Demons followed in 2009 and made $485 million. By the time Inferno arrived, audience interest had faded. It grossed just $220 million against its $75 million budget. Critics slammed the film for its confusing plot and unmemorable performances. Marketing failed to build excitement, and many viewers had simply lost interest in the series. Compared to the earlier films, Inferno felt like an afterthought. Then came Solo, a Star Wars story, a film with trouble behind the scenes long before it hit theaters. Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were the original directors, but they were fired deep into production. Howard was brought in to take over, reshooting large portions of the film while working under a tight deadline. The final product received mostly positive reviews, but audiences didn't show up. It earned $393 million worldwide, making it the first Star Wars movie to lose money. Several factors hurt its chances. The Last Jedi had been released just 5 months earlier, leading to franchise fatigue. Fan reactions to recent Star Wars films had been mixed, and many questioned whether Alden Ehrenreich could live up to Harrison Ford's portrayal of Han Solo. Even with solid storytelling and action, the film struggled to win over audiences. Despite these disappointments, Howard handled them with professionalism. He expressed pride in his work and avoided placing blame. Ron Howard's life is more than just a Hollywood success story. It is a story of love, dedication, and family values that have lasted for decades. His journey began in Burbank, California, where he met Cheryl Alley, the woman who would become his lifelong partner. They were high school sweethearts at John Burroughs High School. Their first date was on November 1st, 1970. They watched a re-release of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, and then went out for pizza. It was a simple evening, but it marked the beginning of something lasting. Ron was certain that Cheryl was the one. He proposed 3 times before she finally said yes. She wanted to focus on her education first, earning a BA in psychology and later an MFA in screenwriting. Once she was ready, they got married on June 7, 1975. Their wedding was a small but meaningful event attended by close friends and family, including Andy Griffith and Tom Bosley. From that moment on, Cheryl was not just his wife, but his partner in everything. Ron made it a tradition to include Cheryl in every one of his films. Even if it was just a small cameo, he believed she brought him good luck. Cheryl, however, was more than just a supportive wife. She built her own career as a writer and published the novel In the Face of Gin. Through all of Ron's successes and challenges, she was always there. When asked about the secret to their long-lasting marriage, Ron kept it simple. He believed in open communication and mutual respect. To him, there was no magic formula, just a willingness to grow together over time. Their life together expanded when they became parents. They had 4 children: Bryce Dallas Howard, born in 1981, twins Paige and Jocelyn Carlisle Howard, born in 1985, and their youngest, Reed Cross Howard, born in 1987. Each child took a different path. Bryce became the most famous, starring in Jurassic World and The Help. Paige also went into acting and writing, while Jocelyn chose a private life away from Hollywood. Reed followed a completely different passion, becoming a professional golfer and social media personality. Ron and Cheryl wanted to give their children a normal life despite the Hollywood spotlight. They discouraged them from acting at a young age and focused on giving them a stable upbringing. They often took the kids along to film locations, homeschooling them when necessary. When Cheryl was pregnant with Reed, they moved the entire family to London so Ron could be there for both filming and the birth of their son. They believed that family should always come first. Even the way they named their children reflected their creativity and humor. Each middle name represents the place where they were conceived. Bryce Dallas was named after the city in Texas. Paige and Jocelyn Carlisle were named after the Carlisle Hotel in Manhattan. Reed Cross got his name from a street near their home at the time. Balancing work and family was never easy, but Ron and Cheryl made it work. Ron credits Cheryl for handling the logistics that kept their family together. Early in his career, he received advice from actor-director Alan Alda, who told him to treat family with the same attention he gave to writing a screenplay. Ron took that advice to heart. Even when launching Imagine Entertainment, he stayed present as a father, making sure his children never felt distant from him. They never believed in separating work and home life. Instead, they blended the two whenever possible. It wasn't always smooth, but it worked for them. Simple habits, like going on coffee dates or taking bike rides together, helped keep their relationship strong. Their children later spoke about how this approach gave them stability, despite their father's demanding career. Beyond family, Ron built a remarkable legacy in filmmaking. In November 1985, he co-founded Imagine Entertainment with producer Brian Grazer. The company became one of the most successful in Hollywood, producing over 50 films and several hit TV series, including Arrested Development, Friday Night Lights, and Empire. Imagine Entertainment also expanded into streaming platforms, producing content for Netflix, Disney+, and Apple TV+. The company first went public in 1986, but returned to private ownership after a buyout in 1992. Over the years, its films grossed billions worldwide. A Beautiful Mind, one of its biggest successes, won 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture in 2002. Other major films include Apollo 13 in 1995, The Da Vinci Code in 2006, and Frost Nixon in 2008. Each of these films proved Ron's ability to handle different genres. His impact on television was just as significant. Imagine Entertainment's projects earned critical acclaim and won multiple awards, proving that Ron was not just a film director, but a master storyteller across different platforms. Over his career, Ron won some of the most prestigious awards in entertainment. He earned 2 Academy Awards for A Beautiful Mind and received nominations for Apollo 13 and Frost Nixon. His achievements also include 6 Emmy Awards, 2 Golden Globes, and a Grammy for The Beatles, 8 days a week. His films have collectively earned over $2 billion worldwide. In recognition of his contributions, Ron has 2 stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, one for television in 1981 and another for film in 2015. His production company, Imagine Entertainment, has been part of projects that received 47 Academy Award nominations and 217 Emmy nominations. He was also awarded the National Medal of Arts in 2003, solidifying his status as one of Hollywood's most respected filmmakers.